The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was shame. Not because I'd done anything wrong, because we were here at all. I saw Ethan before he saw me. Or maybe he did see me and chose not to react. He was already seated at the petitioner's table, shoulders squared, jacket pressed, hands folded like this was a board meeting instead of our grandmother's estate. My name is Marin Caldwell, 42 years old. The courthouse smelled faintly of burnt coffee. My shoes made a small squeak on the tile as I walked in. I hated that sound. It made me feel like everyone could hear me arriving to something I should have prevented. Our parents were seated behind Ethan. My mother's hands were clasped tight in her lap. My father looked smaller than I remembered. Neither of them met my eyes. Ethan glanced up when I reached my table. Just once. Calm. Measured. "You didn't have to make this ugly," he said quietly. "I didn't file anything," I answered. He leaned slightly toward me. "You left me no choice." That old rhythm. Him cornered. Me apologizing. For a moment, I felt that familiar pull the instinct to smooth it over. To say maybe we could talk. Maybe we didn't need court. I've done that my whole life. Covered for missed payments. Explained sharp words. Told myself family means absorbing the blow. The judge entered. We stood. Ethan's attorney spoke first. "Your Honor, this petition concerns undue influence over the decedent in the final year of her life. Undue influence. As if I had whispered instructions into Grandma's ear while she was fading. As if sitting beside her during chemo made me calculating. My attorney, Rachel Kim, touched my elbow lightly. "We're ready," she said. I nodded, even though my throat felt tight. Ethan was asking the court to reconsider the estate, to question my integrity, to reopen everything. Rachel didn't defend my character. She reached into her folder and placed a certified copy of a deed on the table recorded 36 hours earlier. Rachel placed the certified copy in front of the clerk. The raised seal caught the overhead light. I pressed my thumb against it without meaning to, like I needed to feel it was real. Ethan's attorney frowned. "What is this?" Rachel didn't rush. A deed recorded 36 hours ago, transferring the waterfront property from the estate of Judith Caldwell to Ethan Caldwell. Individually. The words hung there. Individually. Ethan sat back. "It's a correction," he said. "Grandma intended it that way." A correction I heard my own voice before I decided to speak. Before the hearing. He turned toward me, jaw tight. "You were going to drag this out. I streamlined it." The judge looked down at the document. "Counsel." Was this transfer disclosed in the petition? Ethan's attorney hesitated. "Your Honor, the deed reflects the decedent's intent. We were prepared to amend filings. Prepared to... Not did." Rachel tapped the header lightly. "Your Honor, the recording number confirms it was entered into the county system 2 days ago. We received notice through routine monitoring." Ethan shot me a look. "You were monitoring, I work in compliance." I said, "You know that." His lips pressed thin. "You don't trust anyone." "I don't trust timing." I answered. The judge flipped a page. "Who notarized this deed?" Ethan's attorney cleared his throat. "A licensed notary public. Standard procedure." The clerk leaned closer to the bench and murmured something. The judge's expression changed. Subtle but sharp. "According to county records," the judge said evenly, "the notary's commission was suspended 5 months ago." Ethan blinked. "That's not possible." Rachel didn't look at him. "It's public record." The room went quiet. Even our parents stopped shifting in their seats. Ethan leaned toward me. "You really want to do this?" I held his gaze. "You recorded a deed behind my back." The judge set the document down slowly. "We are not proceeding as if this is simple. If someone tried to move a family house before a court date, would you call that protection or something else?" The judge didn't sound angry. That almost unsettled me more. "Pending further review," he said evenly. "Distribution of this estate is stayed. No sale, no transfer, No encumbrance of the waterfront property until this court orders otherwise. The clerk's printer hummed behind him. Paper slid out slowly. Official and final. Ethan straightened in his chair. Your Honor, that's excessive. It's protective, the judge replied. Given the irregularity in the notarization, Ethan's attorney rose halfway. If there has been a clerical misunderstanding, a suspended commission isn't clerical, the judge said. It's material. Rachel's hand brushed my sleeve. This gives us room, she murmured. Room. I hadn't realized how tight everything had felt until that word. Ethan turned toward me fully now, not the quick glance from before. A direct look. You're overreacting, he said quietly. I didn't record a deed 2 days before court. I answered. I was taking care of it, taking care of what he hesitated. Just a second. Then, you wouldn't understand. Behind him, our mother leaned forward. Ethan, she whispered, low and strained. My father kept his eyes on the bench. He didn't speak. The judge continued. Both parties will preserve all communications regarding the deed and any related financial activity. Financial activity. Ethan's shoulders shifted at that. Not defiant. Tight. The clerk slid the temporary order across the table. Ethan stared at the paper for a long moment, as if willing it to say something else. I watched him realize this wasn't going to stay private anymore. I didn't learn about the loan from Ethan. I learned from Rachel. She called mid-morning. I was at the kitchen sink, the window open just enough to let in cold air. I remember because my hands were still wet when I picked up. Marin, she said, steady but not casual. We need to discuss something new. What happened? There's a lender involved. Cascade Private Capital. They issued your brother a preliminary commitment. For what I asked, already knowing it wouldn't be small. A bridge loan. $2,200,000. The collateral listed as the waterfront property. I leaned back against the counter. He can't pledge that. It's still estate property. He's relying on the recorded deed. Closing is scheduled in 6 days. 6 days. The same number Rachel had said in court. Why that amount, I asked. There was a pause. Public filings show his company defaulted on a line of credit. He personally guaranteed $1,800,000. The lender accelerated the balance. I closed my eyes. Dad knew we don't have confirmation, but there's a reference to a secondary guarantor. That afternoon, Ethan came to my house. No warning this time. He stood on the porch like he was bracing for weather. You've been digging into my finances, he said when I opened the door. You tried to leverage Grandma's house. It's short term. $2,200,000 is not short term. I would have refinanced once the next round closed. With what valuation, I asked. His jaw tightened. You think I didn't try everything else I think you should have told me. And what listen to you say no, he snapped. If you had asked, we could have done what watched them take everything they're coming after my accounts. The townhouse. Dad signed part of it. You let him do that. I asked quietly. He believed in me. That's not the same as protecting him. Ethan stepped back, like I'd struck him. I wasn't stealing, he said. I was buying time, with property that isn't yours. He didn't deny that. For the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't about winning. It was about how far someone will go when the floor starts to disappear under their feet. The journal came in a thin envelope with a court stamp across the corner. Rachel laid the copies out in front of me, neat and precise. This is the notary's official log for the day your brother executed the deed. She said, I read it slowly. Date, time 10:42 in the morning. Location FedEx office, Northeast 8th Street. Signer Ethan Caldwell. I stared at the line longer than I should have. It doesn't list Grandma, I said. No, Rachel answered. It lists him, and there's no reference to any power of attorney none filed with the county. None attached to the deed. I felt something tighten in my chest. Maybe he brought her in and they just logged it wrong. Rachel turned the page. The journal records the identification presented. Driver's license. State of Washington. Ethan Caldwell. Not executor, not agent. Ethan. There was also a receipt attached $265 for notary services. Paid with a card ending in 9904. That's his card, I said. Yes. And the lender Cascade Private Capital acknowledged receipt of the deed later that afternoon. So it wasn't a misunderstanding at the courthouse. It had steps. It had timing. Ethan called that evening. You had no right to subpoena that, he said. It's part of the probate record. You're turning this into fraud. I'm looking at facts. The notary said it was fine. He insisted. Her commission was suspended 5 months earlier. I didn't know that. But you knew you were signing your own name. Silence. I was authorized, he said finally. By who? Another silence. Longer. Grandma wanted me to handle it. He said. Then, why wasn't it in the will? He didn't answer. I could hear him breathing. For the first time, I stopped asking whether this was panic. I started asking whether it was choice. By the time of the second hearing, whatever confidence Ethan had left was thinner. The judge addressed him directly. Mr. Caldwell, did you personally appear before the notary and execute the deed transferring the waterfront property Ethan stood? I signed documents related to the property. That's not what I asked, the judge said evenly. Did you sign the deed? Ethan's mouth tightened. Yes. The word sat in the air. Rachel rose. Your Honor, the journal confirms Mr. Caldwell presented his own identification. There was no power of attorney. The notary's commission had been suspended. The deed was subsequently used to obtain a commitment for a $2,200,000 bridge loan. The judge looked back at Ethan. Is that accurate? After a long moment, Ethan said, Yes. For what purpose? To stop everything from collapsing? He replied, his voice no longer sharp, just strained. My company defaulted. I personally guaranteed $1,800,000. The lender accelerated the debt. They were moving against my assets, and so you transferred estate property to yourself. The judge said, I was going to refinance and restore it. Ethan insisted. It was temporary. I stood before I realized I was standing. Temporary doesn't apply to something that isn't yours. He turned to me. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted Dad dragged into it? At that, our father shifted in his seat. He finally spoke. Ethan. Just his name. Nothing more. It carried more weight than anything else said that day. Ethan swallowed. Dad believed in the company. He believed in you. I said quietly. That's not the same thing as putting his retirement on the line. Our mother covered her mouth. She didn't look at either of us. The judge leaned forward slightly. Mr. Caldwell. Desperation does not create authority. Ethan's shoulders sank. He looked suddenly younger. I wasn't trying to steal. He said, intent, authority, family. None of those words fit together cleanly. For the first time, I wasn't arguing with him. I was watching him realize there was no way to undo what he had already done. The judge didn't rush it. He read the order once, then again. Given the absence of lawful authority, he said, and the suspended notary commission, this deed is void ab initio. The words landed flat and heavy. Title to the waterfront property is restored to the estate of Judith Caldwell. Ethan didn't move. The judge continued. A lis pendens will remain in effect. No transfer, no encumbrance, no representation of ownership inconsistent with this order. Ethan's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client acted under financial duress. Duress doesn't create authority. The judge replied. Rachel didn't smile. She never does. Your Honor, we also request attorney's fees. The judge nodded slightly. Fees in the amount of $214,000 are awarded to the respondent. I felt Ethan's eyes on me. That's punitive, his attorney said. It's corrective, the judge answered. He turned back to Ethan. You are prohibited from contacting lenders regarding estate property. Any further misrepresentation will be treated accordingly. Ethan's voice came out thin. You're making me the villain. I'm applying the law, the judge said. Silence. The clerk slid the signed order forward. The judge tapped his pen once before placing it down. Ethan finally looked at me. Not angry, not proud, just tired. You win, he said. I didn't respond, because this didn't feel like winning. When a court restores something on paper, does it restore what broke between people? The loan collapsed 2 weeks later. Cascade Private Capital pulled the commitment letter. Without the deed, there was no collateral, no bridge, no rescue. Ethan called me once. They froze everything. He said, no anger now, just flat. I know. They're forcing a short sale on my townhouse. I didn't say I'd seen the filing. Public record again. It wasn't supposed to go like this, he added. It already did. I said. He was quiet. Then, Dad's helping. How he refinanced part of his retirement account. That hit harder than the ruling. You let him do that, he offered. Dad shouldn't be covering $1,800,000 of your mistakes. Stop calling them mistakes, he snapped. But there wasn't much heat in it. What do you want me to call them? He didn't answer. A few days later, I went to the house. I brought a locksmith. New deadbolt. New codes. The metal clicked into place. Clean and final. My mother showed up halfway through. You didn't have to humiliate him, she said. I didn't. You could have worked it out privately. He recorded a deed privately. She looked at the new lock like it was betrayal made visible. You're tearing this family apart, she said. No, I told her. I stopped pretending. When protecting something costs a relationship, which one do you choose? 6 months later, the house is still there. I transferred it into a family trust with a third-party trustee. No single name on the deed. No room for quiet signatures. The paperwork felt colder than I expected. Ethan called after he heard. So, that's it, he said. You locked it away. I made sure it's handled properly. You don't trust me. I didn't answer right away. I don't trust pressure. I said finally. There was a long pause. You think I'd try something like that again? I think people don't recognize themselves when they're cornered. He let out a breath. You always think in worst-case scenarios, and you always think you'll fix it later. He didn't deny that. We set aside part of the rental income for a small literacy fund in Grandma's name. Nothing flashy. Just enough to sponsor local programs. I thought Ethan would object. He didn't. Dad doesn't mention the refinance anymore. Mom stopped asking me to call my brother first. When Ethan and I speak now, it's polite, careful. We measure our words like they're fragile. I didn't win anything. I kept something from being lost. If there's one thing I'd say, and I say it quietly, don't sign away your judgment to keep the peace. Peace built on silence rarely holds. I still don't know whether we'll find our way back.